It was said that a man named Shin Jinping fled to Japan from China to escape hardships after the fall of the Ming dynasty. Here he lived in a Buddhist temple in Yedo, what we know today as Tokyo. Also in this Buddhist temple lived 3 ronins, Miura, Ichigo, and Fukunu. One day, Shin Jinping told the ronins that he knew of an art of seizing a man, that he had seen it but not learned it himself. Upon hearing of this, the 3 ronins went off to investigate. Jiu, which is equivalent to Jiu Jitsu, is traced to these 3 men, from whom it spread throughout the country. The Bujutsu Ryo Soroku is a book of biographies of the creators of different schools of the Japanese arts of warfare. It confirms the story of Kogu Soku and gives a similar account of Jiu-Jitsu. It also says that Miura lived around 1560. The Chinomaki is a certificate given by the School of Kido. On it is a brief history of the arts and principles taught at that school. It is dated 1671. It said that Fukunu was a man who studied fighting without weapons and became very skilled at his craft. 2 of his pupils would be the ones to extend its reach, the 9th century, also in a book called the Sentetsu Soden, which is thought to be a quite reliable source. It says that Shin Jinping met a priestess named Gensi, whom he became very intimate with and published a number of poems. However, Shin Jinping never published anything on or relating to Jiu-Jitsu. Even if these contradictory accounts weren't enough, the fact of the matter is there was no such martial art practice in China that remotely resembled Jiu-Jitsu at that time. Chinese Kempo was the martial art that flourished during those times in China. Kempo is a martial art characterized by its striking. It also places much emphasis on weapons combat. Kempo also required its participants to practice alone. Jiu-Jitsu almost always required another person to practice with. Jiu-Jitsu translates as a gentle or yielding art, and is defined as a method of defending oneself without the use of weapons. Iboji Shoden offered a few philosophies: not to resist an opponent, but to gain victory by pliancy; not to aim at frequent victory; not to be led into squandering by keeping the mind clear; not to be agitated under any emergency, but to remain tranquil. However, some of Jiu-Jitsu did deal with small weapons, such as a dagger or an iron fan, but it mostly dealt with unarming an attacker who was armed. Today, some Jiu-Jitsu schools still train in this disarming method, only with more modern weapons, such as a knife or a gun. Jiu-Jitsu had a great run during the Edo period. However, 1868 marked the end of the shogun rule. Reign was taken from the military leaders and returned to the Matamoros Jiu-Jitsu School teaches the art of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Henry Matamoros, who runs the dojo, and some of his students are more than willing to give us some insight on the art, its fighters, and touch a little on the Gracies.
They did so much for the sport.
They showed people that, how ineffective a lot of the traditional martial arts were, the karates, the taekwondos, the kickboxings. They showed the world that that's only one part of the game.
But taekwondo or karate, they won't teach you, what you really need to defend yourself in case somebody grabs you and in case somebody throws you down.
In the early 1900s, a man named Mitsuyo Mita, a Japanese native, moved to northeastern Brazil. Japan was eager to set up a colony there, and sent Mitsuyo to help the colony flourish. It was there that Mitsuyo befriended a political figure by the name of Gasto Gracie. Gasto liked Mitsuyo and did whatever he could to help him. In return, Mitsuyo offered to teach Gasto's son Carlos Jiu-Jitsu. He taught Carlos from the time he was 17 till he was 21, before he was sent back to Japan. But this allowed Carlos to develop Jiu-Jitsu in new ways. He would open up his own dojo and teach his brothers, most notably Helio. Helio would often suffer from dizzy spells. His eldest brother Carlos would not let him participate in jiu-jitsu classes. Then, one day, when Helio was 16, Carlos was late for a private lesson. Helio stepped in and began instructing the man. When Carlos arrived, the man wanted to continue training with Helio. From then on, he was an instructor. But he realized he was much too small and frail to pull off some of the moves. Never being one to quit, Helio begins devising his own techniques.
Before it used to be more like throws and lags, but you never really emphasized too much on the ground, you know. But in Brazil, like this guy named Helio Gracie, you know, the master of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, started thinking, you know, there's a lot of these techniques that you can do on the guy once that he's on the ground, you know. You don't necessarily have to do it when he's standing, you know. It actually becomes easier. Once that somebody's on the ground, you can easily go and put him in an arm bar and a choke, you know. So they started doing that.
Always the observer, Helio took notice of the way people fought.
Well, every fight starts on their feet, you know, but 95% of every fight goes to the ground. And that's what Helio Gracie did. That you can fight even when you're in the, you know, really trapped, really grab, you know, somebody grabbing you, then you can still fight. And there's ways of moving a finger, moving this, moving that, you know, and they open the eyes for everybody.
You can control your opponent on the ground with wrestling and keep them in, you know, in a specific position. But if you want to win on the ground, I think you need the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, because that's where the submission game comes in. That's where your arm bars, your kimuras, your neck cranks, your chokes, all those things are, you know, at the core of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
If you see boxing, you know, they never let the guys grab. You know, there's a referee always separating the guys. But in a real fight, nobody's gonna be there to separate you. You know, you either punch or grab the guy, and until somebody's done.
The Gracies, they took this art from a small regional kind of phenomenon in Brazil, and you know, it grew to Vale Tudo matches, you know, throughout Brazil, no holds barred matches in Japan, and you know, into the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championships in the United States.
Now that we know a little more about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, let's get to know some of the fighters.
My name is Henry Matamoros. I'm the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu instructor of Milwaukee. I'm like the first black belt in Wisconsin.
Well, my name's Abi Gutierrez. I've been doing Jiu-Jitsu for about 3 months, going on 4.
My name is Courtney Corpella, and I've been training here, doing Jiu-Jitsu for almost 3 years now.
My name is Jason Kazmierzak. I'm a purple belt with Henry Matamoros Jiu-Jitsu. Been doing Jiu-Jitsu with Henry for about 11 years. Prior to that, I've done a few years of karate, taekwondo, wrestled through high school and a year in college. Did some Muay Thai kickboxing, some MMA, some pancration, so a lot of different combat sports.
I was in Taekwondo with my roommate, and he got bored with Taekwondo, even though I was enjoying the workout. And he wanted to switch to Jiu-Jitsu. So me, him, and my brother all joined Jiu-Jitsu. And they ended up quitting within the first 2 weeks. They were puking after every class and decided it wasn't for them.
Well, I first got into Jiu-Jitsu, a friend brought me down. He showed me the class. It looked pretty interesting, and I had done a lot of real traditional martial arts before, and this seemed a little more down to earth, kind of more what I liked.
And I have noticed it's very addicting, you know, like my students get here, and I have had students right now that are 9 years with me, 5 years with me, and you ask the same question, what do you do? And it's addicting.
To me, it's an addiction.
I don't know if it's because I have an addictive personality. I like to move around. I like to find different ways to move around and be creative. Jiu-Jitsu allows you to express yourself, have your own style. I love and hate competing. I try to do it as much as possible. I take any excuse not to at times because it is a nauseating experience. but just thrilling, and it teaches you so much about where you're at and where you can go.
And there's nothing better than the feeling of, when you make another man submit.
To be able to submit somebody, you have to have good position. I came up with 7 to the max 9 good positions where you really have control of this person. So mainly, you don't look, when you see my students, you don't see that they're always trying to fight for the submission. Because if you try to fight somebody just to try to put submissions, number one thing, you're gonna get really tired, and most times you're not gonna get it. So what we try to fight is for submission, for positions, trying to get a good position on this person that you're safe, and transitions. Transitions meaning moving from from one position to the other safely. Like if I have your back, but I want to take you down, then there will be a safe way to take you down with 1 or 2 moves, and those 2 moves will be the transition. And now that you're on the ground, then I have a few other moves to get a better position on you, to finally at the end, when either you're really tired or you're frustrated, then I will try the submission. I'll try to put you out of commission.
Lately I've been the Kimura, and that's a specific type of arm lock, as well as I've been using the side choke a lot lately as well, which is kind of made our dojo famous. It's what Eric Schaefer, one of our brown belts, used in the UFC to choke a guy unconscious. So it's kind of a trademark move for the gym that I've started to incorporate into my game as well.
To me, it's like, like being an animal. My nickname is the monkey. I love watching animals fight. I love watching the animal channel. Because you see the lion, how they attack, how the monkeys fight. I love animals because they give me a great amount of ideas how to move my body. Just the way of moving your chin sometimes, moving your hip, it makes a big difference. The way you put your hand in or out, the way you move, the way you make a technique, it makes a big difference. And that makes the art evolve, With my students, I'm constantly learning every day, man. I learn from I myself like to videotape. As you can see, I have tons of videos of almost all my classes, because I videotape my class, and then later I just go and watch it, and then I see all my students rolling, and I'm constantly, oh my God, yeah, that's a good sweep, or that's a good submission, that's a good strategy, maybe we should use that, Sometimes I teach a technique, but I see one of my students doing it better, so I go and pay attention, and I'm like, wow, that's really cool, So it's constantly evolving, it's constantly,
It's getting different influences from wrestling, from, additional, its roots are in judo and traditional Japanese jiu-jitsu, but, as those sports evolve, it helps jiu-jitsu evolve. The no-gi grappling, the submission grappling has helped the sport evolve a little bit, with different grips. When you're just training in the gi, you're looking at specific gi grips, to slow down your opponent or set up chokes. But as the submission grappling becomes more popular, they're incorporating more wrestling, Greco, freestyle type movements into the jiu-jitsu game. And everybody finds a different way. The more people that get involved, there's more brain power focused on how to do something a little bit differently. The core moves are always going to be the same, but the way you set up those moves is always evolving.
There is a long ways to go as far as getting women involved. Very few women are in it percentage-wise. It's almost, as at tournaments I've seen, kind of a 50-to-1 ratio at times. And I think its next step should be trying to get more women into the sport. That's what it needs. And we've got some great leaders out there, but we really could use some more courage for girls to step up to the plate and give it a try, because it's a great skill for women to get into. It's a beautiful exercise and workout, and the self-defense, you can't match it.
Welcome, my name is Henry Matamoros. I'm here to demonstrate, along with some of my students, a few techniques of what Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is. The way I have divided Jiu-Jitsu is into a few very easy ways or positions to be able to apply a submission. So basically what we like to do in my dojo is to learn those positions first, and then from there try to walk from position to position, and that's what I call transitions, and then get to a superior position to finally get a submission, finally get the guy in a elbow lock or a choke. Courtney right here is going to demonstrate what the first position is, and this is the only position that you will have on from your back, which is basically when the guy is right in front of you, right there, using the legs. So she can be with a closed guard right there. You can close your guard. She can have a butterfly guard, and she can have also a half guard from there. And now I want you to demonstrate from the butterfly how to get somebody's back. Very easy. Right there. To get a way superior position which you could apply easily a choke right there, and then get the guy into a submission to the point that he's gonna have to tap. Very good. Another position, this is the only position that we have on the ground. The other positions are superior positions that are being on the top. So can you get on your back, please? From the back, you have side control. It's basically when you're away from his legs, like she's right there. That's called side control. From there, you can also have a scarf. It's a hold down. It's a perfect hold down. Very difficult for the guy to escape. And also from there, you can go for a knee on the stomach. Very good. Knee on the stomach is it's one of the most brutal positions. You can like put all your body on the guy. From there, you can punch him in the face. You can knee him right on the face, and then you can do arm bars. Just go for an arm bar right there, and then break his elbow. Very easy. And another very good position is the mount. There we go. That's the mount right there. And from there also, if the guy does anything, she can do a lot of submissions. It's, if he gives you the arm, that's called a triangle right there. Very good, guys. Thank you. Can you please show me some few submissions from the guard? Yeah. Aoife's also going to demonstrate a few submissions from the guard. It looks like once that you're on your back, it's very difficult to fight, but actually in Jiu-Jitsu, once that you're on your back, as long as the guy is always in front of your legs, you can do a lot of damage. She did a choke right now. There's another choke using his head and arm, and also she can do an arm bar from there. Very good. Excellent. In my school, what we like to do is we practice a lot of submissions, a lot of submissions from different positions. Can you mount him and do a few submissions from there too? Like from knee on the stomach. We practice this. These are drills. How to dislocate an elbow, how to put him in a triangle right there. It's very you're controlling the neck and the arm. And after we do a lot of these drills, we like to have real matches going on. And this is kind of how it looks. Okay, guys, can you go over there and do a real submission grappling? Basically, at the end of the class, we like to put it together, try like this, and you guys can come over here. This is a real grappling match. Assuming that the guy is already on the ground, then you get to fight. And the fight will consist on always try to get better positions on the guy, knee on the stomach, mount, so that you can eventually get a submission. Like that right there, Jack has got a mount from there, and he's trying to apply a key lock submission on Courtney, which he did. Very good. Aoife is applying a triangle right there. I'm just gonna let you guys watch a few of the grappling going on. I've been teaching in Milwaukee for the last 10 years, and my studio is located in Bayview. And I welcome everybody, any ages, children, women, adults, because I think it's very important that you learn how to defend yourself on the ground. 95% of a real fight is gonna end up in the ground. And there's where you have to really know how to defend yourself. 95% of the time you're gonna get grabbed, and if you don't know how to do, what to do from there, you're gonna be in a lot of trouble. Thank you guys. So as you can see, most of the time, thank you guys, that's enough. Most of the time, can you please demonstrate some takedowns also on Ifa? A lot of times in Jiu-Jitsu, quick. We also do takedowns, hip throw right there, very good. We can, Ifa, can you do one also? Because most of the time the fight is gonna end up, start standing, so it's important to know how to get that person to the ground. So that's something that we practice a lot. Aaron, please do more takedowns. We have combined a lot of mix into our art, a lot of wrestling, American freestyle wrestling. We have incorporated judo, which is a lot of hip throws, like the one that he first did. And that's it, guys. That's what Jiu-Jitsu is. So that's my Jiu-Jitsu.